In today's lecture, we are going to look at the Milestone project for SQL with Python to create a library software. So what is a library software? So in this, you have option to add the books in the system, and then you could view this book, and you could query a book. But we are going to create a simple kind of library software in which you could add a book to the system and then view a book. So basically it would look like this if I have open in this. So let's suppose you want to add a book name like let's say Animator Life book, and then you could just add book statement, and then if you look onto the view book, you have all the list of the book. And this is built on Tkinter. The GUI as graphic user interface is built on Tkinter, and the backend is on Python SQL. So if we want to look at the flow, how the flow works, basically if you have to look, and then have to look. So fix this. Yeah, so in this what we have is a Python database. Here is our SQL database, and this is connected to our front end, in which we basically have add book and view book option. So what happening is here, it is connected to the port 5432, that is default port, and when you add a book, it runs a query that is select add a book onto those, and then when you want to view a book, it runs a query statement to view a book. And that we are going to look at what are the query statements that we are using to add a book and view a book. So this is generally basically schematic flow, and you should be easily, like when you have to create a software, this is the workflow you should follow. That first you need to have a mental map. Okay, we have a SQL database which is at a backend. Backend is basically where all the data is stored, and we have a front end where user is interacting to it, and then we have add book and view book option, and in this we have a port 5432, we have SQL database, and then in this we could use two query thing, that is view and add a book query statement that we are using. In generally in software, if I have to add, basically there is CRUD statement that is very popular. So in basically any software, right, any software, there should be a CRUD operation. So for example, in C stands for create, R stands for retrieve, U stands for update, and D stands for delete. So this is the basically operation on any website. So if, for example, if you consider example like Instagram, right? Instagram is very popular website where you post your images. So that's a create operation, and when other person view it, it's a retrieve option. And suppose you post something wrong post, so you want to update it, so then it's a update operation that it does in the backend. And when your post is like you want to delete your post so that no one can see, then this is a delete option. So that's how any website works. If you want to consider it for let's say Reddit, right? Reddit, so you create a post on this, so you did a create option. When other people see that post, that is a retrieve option, and when you want to update it, it's a update operation, and when you want to delete a post, it's a delete operation. So that's how a CRUD operation works. And basically we are going to do only two options, that is create and view, that is retrieve. CR operation basically we are going to implement in this. So with this, let's see how you could install Python on your system, and then I hope you already have SQL installed. If not, what you could do is you could watch the lecture 2 of SQL Masterclass. In this, I have covered how to install Postgres SQL and pgadmin 4, so that it could be useful for you to install this and retrieve update the data. So with this, let's see how you could install Python onto your machine. For this, the first part what we need to do is we need to first install Python. And to install Python, what we need to do is basically go here in your search panel and search for Python. I have already installed, but I will give you a brief through how to install Python. So here you click on download Python, and currently 3.13 version have been released, and you could see the pre-release also being there to download, which is good. But you could download Python 3.13 version, and once it's there, you could click on it, and just make sure you add python.ext to path, and just click on install now. It will install all those things. So I have already done this, and once you have installed, what you need to do is you need to go to CMD or terminal on your operating system and search for python-v, and it will give you the version it have installed. So you could see that mine is 3.12, and it is LTS. Basically, if you want to know what is LTS, it's long-term service or long-term service, I think, and it's basically stand for it have long-term support, I mean, and it provides basically is for long-term support version. Once you have installed Python in your machine, what you need to do is you need to go to pgadmin 4, basically pgadmin 4, and here I have already opened this. So here you could see first I have server, in this I have Postgres SQL 16, and in this on the lower level of tab I have to click on, and then I have to go to create database, and let's say we will name it as bookdb, and this will help us to create our book database. So bookdb is created, and once I click it, I got to open this bookdb. Now we have to create a command to basically create table onto it. Now let's see how you could do this. Now what you need to do is basically go to query tool, and then to the query tool. Once you go to the query tool, you could write your SQL query here. So we need to create a table with books with ID, like with the ID serial key and a name. So how we could create this? We could just type create table, then or table name, create table. Here we have a typo, create table book, and in this, in the curly braces, curve braces, you need to type ID serial, which would be our primary key. Even if you don't type this, it's okay, like you don't have to necessarily type it. Then you have to type name, what the name is, then varchar. Varchar could be around 255 words, so we could add those 255, and then it should not be a null value. So if book have null, should have some name, so we could refer back to it. So we are adding not null, and if I run it, and you could see it's have been created. So if I go to PySQL tool, and if I type db, I get the rows, columns that have been created. So with this, now what we need to do is basically go to command prompt and create our code. So what I will do, go to cmd command prompt, and in this what I will do is first I will type pip install pyscoopg2 if you haven't installed. So psi cop g2, and then I have to enter. Hopefully it's correct, name is correct. Now what you need to next do is go to cmd and then reinstall Tkinter, pip install Tkinter. So basically Tkinter is a GUI that provides you to connect, like it's a front end in Python language. So let's see the Tkinter documentation. If I open Tkinter documentation, and it's very good habit to look onto what's the documentation says. So here is the Python Tkinter, and it's maintained by Python open source community. You could see Tkinter is TK interference is a standard Python interface for TCL TK GUI toolkit. Both TK and Tkinter are available on most Unix platforms, including Mac OS as well as Windows system. So whatever GUI building here would be available in Python as well as in other OS as well. Basically not for embedded system. So if you are into an embedded system, this won't work. Now you could see support for Tinker spreads across module. You could see how you could import Tkinter and all those stuff. But you just give a brief read through the first part, it would be nice. So next what we need to do is we need to go to desktop, or like where you code. I basically save my file all in here, and let me so in Windows, if you are in Mac OS or in Linux system, ls would stand for list system, and it will file all shows you all the files. But we are in CMD command prompt, it won't accept. So basically what we'll do is create a file, make directory, let's say Python code, Python SQL code, and we will change it to that directory with cd command, and we'll enter those change directory, and we could open code dot. Basically what it does is basically opens the VS Code, and in my second screen it have opened those, but it will open in your first screen if you have one. So here first what we need to do is we need to create a file. So here we could say Python SQL code.py, and here we need to just type import Tkinter as tk, well that's odd. And what I'm basically doing is creating alias for tk, which is Tkinter. So if I have to get some function from Tkinter, I don't have to type Tkinter again and again. And then there is a message box basically we have to import, and to import this we could type from Tkinter import message box. Now we need to first create a connection to the database, and to do this I have already wrote down the code, and I will show you what I'm basically doing it. Basically so what I've done is created a function def connect db, and in this what I'm trying to do is try to connecting with scicopg2 SQL database, and in this we have database name booksdb, user, password, and localhost and port. So if you go to this, and here if you go to PySQL tool, what it basically does, it runs a command, right? It runs sql.exe with host and port this. And why is this useful? Because here if you look, let me zoom it, Ctrl++, which is odd, it doesn't work. So basically we have host, localhost, port 5432, and book db as our name, and it will give us idea okay what we need to type here. So we have to write db name as booksdb, user as postgres, Postgres, then password as mine password. So I have set it the password as to be admin, so I will set it up admin. My host is localhost, so this is correct. Localhost, you could see port 5432, and basically to create a connection, we required a port, so where the communication could happen. So right, if you want to connect with local, when you host a website, right, you have seen it hosted on local 8000. Basically 8000 here is a port which is available, and your PC is trying to connect with that port, and you are able to get the website. That is why that port is there. And once it's there, and if you want to know more about ports, it's good, but you don't have to create a lot of ports and open it, because that's one of the security vulnerability, and that's how some connection get hacked, right? So suppose you created a port, but in that port it doesn't have any authentication. I'm just giving you a rough idea what happened. Basically, I'm not going to deep dive into it, but just going to tell you why it's necessary to not open more than one port. So port 5432 is basically database port that is used universally, and when you have to connect your website to to the back end, you need to tell, okay, you need to go to this and go to this port, so that you will be able to have some connection, and then provide this. And if you hosted this website, right, and you did not use environment variables, basically you just typed in plain text, you will get to know that in next day your website might be getting some you get message like your website got crashed or hacked. This is because this is crucial credential, and this not should be shown to the user or any other person in if you are in production level, the team members also don't know what's the password is for, because in the server it's already there and no one knows that password. So that's why for security purpose says security practices that should be in environment variable, and moreover you should change it, rotate your keys. There are lot of practices are done. So basically that's how it is. And then we have created this function basically to connect to our database. So once it's get connected, we need to connect our book, right? We have to add book functionality. So I have created this function already, and I will just give you an idea. So book name is basically, once you type your book here, right, to get this value we call this method entry.get.strip to remove any front and back space that are there. So if there is a book empty book, if the book name is empty, book name is empty, then show that book name cannot be empty. Then we need to create a query, and to create a query we call dot cursor as cur, and then we call the insert into values, in which we pass our name and values as book name. So once the value is inserted, we show the user that message book have been added successfully, and you could show them this. And if there is some error, it's a good habit to have try and accept, because there could be error, so you just show exception that this book have not been added. So next functionality, we need to show user the to view the book, how you could view the book. So to do that, we need call view book functionality. In this we call cursor and select name basically, and we show all the books basically in this, and we call fetch all, and we do this, and then if they have any error, we show this to the user. And this is basically what it is. And lastly is to set up our book manager. So we are using ticketer as tk method. We have added title as our book manager, and then here we have label, which is this label. We ask user to enter book label, and then this is our entry. And you might be wondering where this entry is coming from. So here this get strip is called, and then we call the we add button, and then we call few function into it. So let's see what we have done. So basically we are just setting up the UI. So we have two button, basically add and view button, and in this we ask user to enter book name, and then we have paddy, and then we add this book name to it. Now to list the book views, we just have to create a view button, and then it's just a simple command to view the books, tk label dot books, and we get the books. We run the application, and then if the connection is there, then everything runs. Like if everything is correct, your code might be running and it's working properly. So once this done, you could first type exit if you are in some Python console, or then what you need to do is, let me get some space, and then you have to run Python SQL code, that is our file name. And if I press tab, I get the suggestion, and this is the correct way. So I got to open book manager. Let me make it full screen. Hopefully it should. So you could see that the UI does not get affected. So let's say you want to add any book name. So let's say Animator Life is one book name I have studied, in which it shows how you should draw and how you should make real life animation. It's a very good book. I would suggest you to read it. Although when I see enter view book, it runs the code to get all the values, select all in the table and show the value. That's how the library system basically work in your library, because they have also few other function to create, update the book, then when you have taken the book, and then delete the book if it gets lost or something. But with this we have completed our Python milestone project, and you should be proud of yourself by reaching till this point. It's very hard to follow Python SQL, and I hope you have enjoyed this lecture as I am enjoying this lecture. And with this I will see you on to the next lecture. In this lecture we are going to look at SQL interview preparation, in which we mostly cover how you should prepare for SQL interviews. With this I will see you on to the next lecture. Thank you everyone.